Good evening, guys. Ken at Tortoise Capital, nightly strategy podcast for February 13th, 2023. For Nolan and everybody getting stuck trading in the Crocodile River, I want you to find this video on the homepage on Tortoise Capital, or just find Daily Structure Execution by me from 9 years ago. It talks about, in 20 minutes, my daily process for plan, prepare, and execute. And then it talks about organizing the day in 30-minute chunks and why you want to stay out of the opening 30 minutes and the last 30 minutes when you're learning these patterns, and stay out of the lunchtime chop. And that gives you 4 30-minute periods after the opening, and then 4 30-minute periods after lunch, prior to the last 30 minutes of closing, and then the kinds of patterns that you can be looking for. And I also want you to add the Z3 lines to your chart so that you can detect when you're starting to get converging price action and stay out of the chop. The final thing is, I'm going to say, look at the criteria for the SSC and the COTA 2. They require a significant harsh winter prior to for the SSC to be valid, and then you have to have clearly defined higher lows in order for it to be a COTA 2. It's not an automatic stop and reverse just because the PSAR flipped. Those other preconditions got to be in place. Anyway, this organized structure of the 30-minute charts should help you with the discipline of where to trade. You should listen to that every day for 30 days, and also the 2-hour battle drill every day for 30 days. All right, let's go to the portfolio review. Let me get into 30 minutes. Okay, so starting with Alcoa. So Alcoa, we covered a 2-position short this morning. The market was showing some upward indications. Let's get our pen working. Here we go. So we had a short, a second short. This morning there was a gap, a sell-off, and then started to reverse. And that looked like a good place to put the second position and all of the first position deep in the money. And so this 1 unit of risk returned 4, 5, 6, 7R on that one, and then this one returned about another 2. So that's about a 9R total swing trade, 3 days, 1, 2, 3, with a measured risk on the PSAR flip after a supported fall crossing. Right, so you have a high, a lower high, a clear, strong downward trend, an upward trend that could not make a new high, and instead crossed the dragon, PSAR flipped, and then we put the MMRB on it and crushed it. So that's 9R in Alcoa. Next one up is Cliff. Cliff was an initiation of a long here today with the MMRB, and it closed well. That's after that long short, or that's a long short, a reasonable short trade. That was the same pattern where Alcoa was just crushing it to the downside without even that extra piece. So we only ever got one position on this one out of the breakout box, which we didn't know where it was going, followed price, and there we are. So that's about 1 unit of risk. So 1, 2, 3, 4 on that short. And then today, this is a COTA 2, standard risk, and looking good. CVS, we initiated the long after the gap up, which had exceeded the previous RL10 peak. standard risk. This thing gave us a couple good moves up, but has become sideways. Probably should have gotten out of it today. So we will remedy that tomorrow by raising the stop finally from here up into here. So we'll give it to the bottom, at 89. We're going to try to lock in that little bit of a gain. So we're only giving it about that much room. Probably should have exited that one somewhere around in here today on failure to break out of the triple top. Devon Energy. Last Friday we initiated the entry here on a standard risk box. This thing it closed well Friday. Today it resumed nicely and is right about here. So I think we want to, now that we are near this peak, I think we want to move our stop up into just below that double bottom right there. And what that'll do is allow us to lock in this gain, which is about 1.5R. If it gets above 64, I would be tempted to add another position. Electronic Arts, we walked through this one extensively over this weekend. And this was an enormous Godzilla. You can see this thing has just been crushed to the bottom of the 10-day and the 30-day low. And so we hypothesized that if it doesn't fail, then it could actually be any good. So it started off strong today. We got the PSAR flip, standard risk, and it's closed nicely, and we're holding almost 3R in hand. It closed above this little hump. Now, if this can get above, say, 114, that could really go. I'm going to raise my stop on this to the bottom of this little consolidate. I want to lock in 1R. And so this is a Godzilla getting ready to get started. Electronic Arts. Emerging markets, we initiated the long today. Or I'm sorry, we covered the short. I meant to stop and reverse here. But we got the PSAR flip, so we cashed that one. That's about 1R. I missed that one on the long side. Should have had that. But I initiated enough ones today that was lower priority. We did get long on Mexico on the PSAR flip. So we took the entry here, standard risk box to the bottom of the dragon. And that one is holding about 1.5R. I think tomorrow I want to raise my stop to here and lock in 1R. I would consider adding a second position if it gets above this hump. Today was a pretty strong day broadly in the market. Brazil, same thing, initiated right after the opening, standard risk. This one is not as strong as Mexico was because it has not exceeded that peak. I'm going to give it one more day with this stop down here. I was really tempted to move my stop to here to lock that in, but I think I want to give it one more day. I would consider adding, however, if it gets above this price level tomorrow. So we'll see. International paper. Missed the continuation on this one. It's not one of my normal usual suspects, so I was still really just basking in the glow of this double position short and just missed the fact that this should have been a long here. Not to worry. If it breaks above today's high, I think I could be tempted into here and then just simply use I think right here, the daily range. Use that as the risk box. So be ready to go long from here. And then I think it gets to this price level pretty easily. And then the real test is what happens around 41.50. That looks like the stronger resistance. Real estate, we did get long. This was the one I was tempted to get last Friday, but I just didn't want the over the weekend exposure. So we end up getting long here, but we missed that. We missed the afternoon move Friday. But we are in with a standard risk box here, and it closed reasonably well. This is the resistance level it's got to get through. So let's just call it. It's got to make a new 5-day high for this really to work. I don't like that pen at all. So we took a look at Lumen, Lumn, on the weekend report to describe various techniques within the Godzilla. And this was similar to Electronic Arts in that we had seen some rising lows, but it was very quiet volatility. And so today, when the PSAR flipped, we got long, and the tight risk box was to the bottom of the dragon and the PSAR here. So this thing is hovering right on the edge. If this goes, this could be really interesting because now you've had 1, 2, 3, 4 days where it has not failed further. And the more days that it doesn't fail, the more that it looks like it's going to try to close this gap. So the target would be this previous close, and then if you take the 50% retracement, 460 is my reasonable target to the upside, which represents, if it can get to 460 on this much risk, that's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6R just to a 50% retracement of the gap. All just based, predicated on failure to fail further, willing to give it a shot. Pure speculation on that one. McDonald's, we were able to get in on the gap up and go, standard risk, closed pretty well. This has legs. So tomorrow we want to see it get above today's high. That would be confirmation. But the real confirmation will come from the 5-day high. If it can get above, call that 268.25, that's where, a second position might be added. But McDonald's feels like it was tagging along with the market strength. This is marijuana ETF. Last trade was this short. We've been stalking it. Nothing happened today. If there's further weakness tomorrow, like below the low of the day, I could see a short from here. This was not persuasive today. On a strong day in the market, and that's failing, that could go back to 6, which we know is well within. This thing could get all the way down here to 610. So if we can get short here with maybe a risk box like that, maybe 10 or 20 cents, that's worth a shot tomorrow. It would have to get above 680 to be interesting, and then your stop would be something like this, maybe 10 cents, which would give you a 1, 2, 3 to this peak. I'd rather play the short side, but that one is possible. Clean energy, we initiated the long today on the PSAR flip. Standard risk box is well below the PSAR flip. So this is one where the standard risk box, I'm only going to take half of it anyway, like I would execute. If it fell below the dragon right here, I'd want to be short. But I'm position sizing off of the standard risk. But this has a good chance to get back to 46, and that would give us 2R here. And then if that works, it's another 1, 2, 3 to 49. So it's got some possibilities. Treasuries, we covered the short on Friday. Just missed the long. Um, I want to see what tomorrow looks like. If tomorrow, if SPY is down and TLT up, then we would expect to see an entry somewhere around 104 with a target up here around 106. Meaning if I could get long here with a stop right about there, I have about a 4-to-1 to the top of that. And that feels like potential. But I would want to see the S&P failing and Treasury stronger in order to take that trade. Tesla, I initiated the long. I did not get the morning hook on that thing. There was a morning hook on the 3-minute that was available. I waited to see this, so we're just initiating one long. I'm going to leave the stop fairly tight for the swing right here, and then just try to let that grow up to about 212. Last one today, U.S. Steel, just initiated the long. You know, on the after the PSAR flip last week, it stared death in the face and recovered, and then today continued that move. So I like that with the standard risk. I've just got my stop in down here, feeling pretty good. It has to get above about 28.80 to be persuasive, and if that works, then we think it could get to 30 and a quarter. So I'm just content to give this a couple days to try to close that tactical space. All right, so that's the swing trade update for the day. To find that video, by the way, if you go to tortoisecapital.net and about halfway down the page, on the front page, you'll see an area that has free background materials, um, commentaries on our ecosystem, course syllabuses, stories of successful traders, characteristics I see in successful traders. I'm now reminded I got to update the glossary to version 4. And then these two here, the daily trading plan preparation and the trading plan execution, the one I just showed you, both of those are high priorities. Haven't changed a word of it over the last 10 years. If it's not broke, don't fix it. All right. We'll go with our sniper trade of the day, and we're looking at Intel. On the 3-minute. This was the close. It just continued after the PSAR flip. Little morning hook and go. So we're long from here. Standard risk box. And really, after 1, 2, 3, 4 bars, you could already think about getting your stop to there and locking in this wedge. Sorry for the line's not very straight. Sorry. I think you could get the stop to here and lock in that wedge. Standard exit at the PSAR flip for about an R. Standard reentry. What would we call this? What would we call that reentry pattern? Yep, caught it too. We have a low. We have a higher low. We had a successful trade, very orderly crossing of the dragon, PSAR flip, standard risk, standard exit, caught a 2 re-entry, standard exit. So that's about 2.5 R. Caught a 2 entry, scratch, close to the afternoon. So that's about 2.5 R in a very routine, typical manner. Nothing weird about that one. Right by the numbers. Right, let's find the traders today. All right, this is Tim on CLF. All right, so here's his OR3. Price falls through. He gets short with standard risk. It sells off. It comes back. He gets paid 0.2. Now, when this crosses the VWAP, you can get long there. The MACD still below the Z2 doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. That's not a signal. When it crosses that morning hook and crosses the VWAP, you can get long here or you can get long there, and both of those patterns you're not going to lose money on. This is the pattern for the WMB3, by the way. Oversold, uptick on MACD. So you can be getting long even right in there as it crosses the dragon. I like this short. This could be a stop and reverse because you've crossed the VWAP. You could otherwise get long in here when it crosses the dragon, or you can get long here, but that's a good quick exit. I always prefer these just because I just like to go with it. Now the next short should be here because you have the dragon rolling over. You have you have a lower highs. That's actually a COTA 2, and you would get paid on this one instead of waiting for that one. That feels a little bit late because you got the PSAR flip here, and you cross the VWAP here. At a minimum, that's a scratch. And there's the PSAR flip just for consistency, and that's about a 3R trade. Cliff, let's see here. This is the OR3. There was a potential short here, which in best practice would have scratched. You might have gotten long on the 1, 2, 3. Might have gotten long on the PSAR flip and the crossing of the dragon, which plays this one. And then here's a logical exit. That's also a logical short. This is a good long. I like that you didn't stick around too late and got paid, so that's good. That early morning trade from those first 2.5 hours, that's where the moves are occurring, and you're in the lunchtime chop. This is Brazil. This is really good work. OR3 gets long here. Gets paid well. I like this short. I like because it did not fail. Great scratch. I like the re-entry. I like the scratch. after two scratches on the short side in a row, we might have taken this one across the VWAP. This is still okay and gets paid a fraction, maybe a scratch. That's still pretty good work on Brazil. Very orderly index. And that early move in Brazil is the one you love, right out the gate. Let's see, Gary. I'm assuming that's the open. Here's a swing low, higher low. That's a Kata 2 entry. That's a Kata 2 entry. On either one of these entries, exiting at the edge of the dragon would have been fine. Here's a piece. Oh, I'm sorry. That was probably yesterday. I'm sorry. Never mind. OR3. That was a potential short. When that doesn't fail further, you would probably scratch this. And then that's a 1, 2, 3 entry long. This is an RLXD entry long. That's the PSAR flip long for an SSC. That gets paid. You would then want to get out at the edge of the dragon. So that one should get paid. The short on this one, I make the VWAP, make it orange so we can see it. I think that's the VWAP. We would probably want to be short here rather than here. On failure to fail further and crossing the VWAP, you could get long here because that's now a Kata 2. Notice this. On the RLXD, Kata 2. You wouldn't lose money on that trade. And then this is now a Kata 2 on the downside because you have a high, a lower high. You could also call that a collapsing dragon. That should not lose money. I treat this one as a Kata 2 rather than an SSC because you have these higher lows in the RL10. When this breaks these peaks, yep, that's an ED. And also that little R10 wiggle. Man, we should be crushing that one. SFC, yep. I guess this is the one you did take long. We should not be losing money on that trade. We should at least scratch. So lots of opportunities in this space. Nolan, go watch that video. Add the Z3 lines. Stay out of the river. The first 2.5 hours is the trade. Here's the OR3. That's a good short. Got paid. I like that quick scratch. This scratch, I think, took too long. That would you already had a 1, 2, 3 exit right here. That's where that thing should be exiting, and then you could be entering here or here. Good trade, good re-entry, good scratch, good re-entry, perfect exit. I like this patience. Again, when this doesn't work, take it at the edge of the dragon. If you're going to take that one, I would take this one, but not those. Satya with First Solar. He waits for the first 30 minutes to be done. And now on this little consolidation, it's above the VWAP. He has this little triangle, breaks out across the dragon. Standard risk, crushes it. 2.7. How many trades a day do you need? Let's see. Trying to get the daily report. Just a minute. All right, let's go to dashboard number one. We're still in bullish quiet. Stabilized price here on the 2-day and 10-day look back. Still stronger on the longer terms, and we're above 50 on the 270 look back. That's good. Risk Z is still showing risk on, not at an exaggerated level of volatility, still above the zero line, so that's still good. A couple potential longs here in the globals are all showing some strength. In the Dow 30 tactical, we got a ton of auto framers still in play. Plenty of 551Ws fired today on a resumption of strength with a white candle for the day. That's a good thing. Energy was especially strong today with ExxonMobil, and we talked about that one this weekend and neglected to put that in the swing portfolio. But we talked about ExxonMobil. Let me go to the S&P 500 real quick. We looked at that extensively yesterday. Or I should say Saturday. Because yesterday we were in Chiefs Kingdom. Yeah, there was an opportunity for a COTA 2 re-entry in here today. And, it looks like I must have loaded, I'm sorry, I loaded the wrong dang report. Stand by. Stand by. Sorry about that. Yeah, so February 13th. Still plenty of auto framers to choose from. That looks more like it. Now, today the strength was in tech with Intel, Microsoft looking really good. Microsoft is looking really good. And then some weakness in ExxonMobil. Tesla was a bit of a disappointment. And then in the ETFs, still plenty of auto framers to choose from. Some triple screens and 551Ws that are looking good. Real strength Brazil, tech, S&P tech, and consumer discretionary. So the growth leaders were leading today. That's a very good sign. Auto framer with standard framing. Leave that to you and on the squeezes. Let's look at the regression line fractals. In the green boxes, or green text, these are the symbols that are the most ATRs below their RL270. So that's either deep value or the price was collapsing and could be very weak. So when the 270 is high, that's the long-term buy and hold fair value in our ecosystem, and the RL10 has collapsed. What you're looking for is some kind of short-term strength, almost like a morning hook, but this is a swing. And then you frame that in terms of the numbers of ATR to get back to the long-term buy and holders fair value. This RL10 is equal to the trader's price. So the difference between the trader's price and the long-term buy and hold fair value, this is what create that difference of opinion about fair value is what creates the possibility of a short-term trade. So this chart tells you that Johnson & Johnson is 3.3 ATRs below its fair value. Pfizer, United Health, Chevron, and Coke. So 3 out of those 5 deep value plays are healthcare. Um, in the red, what we have is the opposite case, where we're looking at overheated relative strength winners. These are the symbols that are the most ATR above their own RL270. So this could be something where the RL270 is down here, and this price has rocketed way up. How far up? Well, J.P. Morgan is 8 ATRs above his long-term fair value. So what that tells you is that if you're into that trade and you have a 2 ATR stop, then that 2 ATR stop should be giving it plenty of room to wiggle and still keep going if there's more strength, but still protects you against a 6 ATR sell-off back to the long-term fair value. So you don't let that runaway win go back to zero. Similarly, NVIDIA is at 7.5, Boeing and Nike, etc. Okay, so that's our regression line fractal framework. It's a way to rapidly find reasonable swing trades. Now on to the sniper, and there was a very good discussion this weekend on the weekend swing report and in the Creativity 203 session we did on Sunday morning. Was about a 40-minute masterclass on how to really work the Godzilla. It was worth the price of the whole workshop. And that's just a bonus for the course. So the S&P in the S&P 500, we've got 3 Godzillas. Electronic Arts was one that we studied in great detail this weekend. It's still a stealthy Godzilla, and that was the reason for the fact that it did not fail was the reason for getting long on that. And what that looks like, starting him off intraday, by the way, is that we saw that on the at the start of this session. But just to let me switch to the swings and Electronic Arts. So this is what the entry on the 30-minute chart looks like, that failure to fail. When you go out and look at it on a longer-term basis, now you can see the 150-day look back. This thing has sold off not once, not twice, but 3 times. Look, this thing has fallen about 80% of that range in 10 days or less. But it spent 5 days and has not failed further. And that's the argument that, well, if you're not going to fail, maybe you're just going to run up to the peak right here. And then if you get through that, now all you have to do is close this gap. So we would put price levels here at the 50% retracement and at the PSAR flip. And now I have a very measured price ladder all the way up. And all we got to do is get well started on this. And if it only gets to 118, we're going to have about an 8-to-1 R multiple because we were able to fine-tune the entry on the 30-minute chart. That's the essence of hybrid swing trading, in this case using the Godzilla. Very low risk trade. If that thing fails, I'm so ready to be short Electronic Arts it'll make your head spin, because that thing has a long way to fall if it keeps falling, right? It could get down to 110 easily. So that's in a perfect critical state for us to work on. And that, by the way, is what a stealthy Godzilla looks like. Wildly oversold on the 150-day and 30-day lookbacks. Abnormal volatility on the 5-day volatility, and then the fact that it's very quiet on the 1 day is just gravy. So that is something that's in a compound critical state at the end of a huge sell-off, and it's either going to recover slowly or collapse in a hurry. And I can put a tight risk on that and just follow the price. And that's why Godzilla is the king of the monsters. I made the argument this weekend in our master class why I really like double greens and double reds, and made the case why out of each one of these three lenses in the S&P 500, we can find trades that really align with your personality type. The one-day movers are the ones that, regardless of the previous condition, have made an oversized move and are in play and maybe starting that next move. The double quiets are the ones that nobody's paying attention to, and you can frame that trade before the breakout occurs and get favorable entries on small risk. The double greens are wildly in play. Like this one, O'Reilly Auto Parts, is in the top 10% of his 150-day, 30-day, and 10-day lookbacks, and is wildly volatile on both the 5-day and the 1-day. He's at the top of his powers, breaking out in his large ranges short term. That thing is in play and ready to keep going. Love it. There's your sniper framework from the TC2000 bundle with all of your key price levels and analytics done for you. The reward to risk ratio is essentially the auto framer. The R10 tells you the size of the intraday box, and then all the things you need for mechanical entries, mechanical risks, initial stops, and so forth. And the all-important range stat. This tells you how quiet this market has become. In our tactical set, only one symbol, Coinbase, had exceptionally large volatility. Only 3 of them normal volatility, and everything else is below average and getting quieter. That's how quiet this market is, poised for a sharp move this week. Direction immaterial. NDX summary, standard work here. Walmart, IBM, and Merck making bank. McDonald's, this is why I wanted to get long on that one today. It's above average in every time frame, and the 2-day is becoming exceptional. That's a good news story. Mexico, powerful. Brazil, powerful. Energy, still plenty of room. All right, that's everything we got for today. We'll get it published and posted, and back to work. Patrick Mahomes. It's his world, and we're just living in it.